Well, good evening, class, and welcome back from what I hope was a very fun and festive holiday weekend. Caught me a little off guard, I'm sure, as it maybe caught a few of you as well. So, my apologies, this is getting up on Tuesday night and not Monday. I myself was in Wisconsin, actually staying at a hotel in Peru, Illinois, as well as another one up in the northern Wisconsin area, up north of the Dells. So, great chance to go look at two properties, very unique. One of them was very unique. Actually had bunk beds inside the room, more of a suite type feel. So always fun to get out and see different properties, see how they do things. And this property really nailed it, knocked it out of the water, if you will. So up there for a wedding. So all right, well, also you guys, I am going to have those forms graded probably within the next 24 hours. My apologies on that as well. I thought I'd have more access to my computer than I did this weekend. That will be up. We're getting ready to go over chapters 4, 5, and 6. We have your test starting Thursday morning that will be online and available to you guys. Please take a close look at the due dates for the test and what times those have to be taken by and turned into me. I shouldn't say turned into me, but taken online. So everything's online for you guys to take. We'll get it up there within the next 24 to 48 hours. You guys are ready to rock and roll. So here we go, chapter 4, talking about how we're selling to the different markets. And again, this kind of gets into the nuts and bolts of things. So these three chapters are incredibly important for you to begin to understand what the different roles of sales managers are and how they approach their different markets. So when we look at associations, the, um, the types of associations out there, they are infinite. I mean, it seems like there's an association for absolutely everything. If you can think of a job within an industry, I promise you there's an association. So definitely a great place for revenue for the hotels, obviously, to go after those meetings, get them in. But also when these associations put on their meetings, they actually generate revenue for them. A lot of these association meetings will have exhibits, their registration fees that they'll charge their attendees, and they do a fair amount of advertising at these association meetings. So a great chance for the association to grow from a revenue standpoint. You'll see them bring on a number of different partners involved. And these meetings can be quite extensive, going as far as using convention center space and then a number of hotels, or they can be as small as a one hotel piece of business. So your book goes into great detail on both of these. Generally, what you're going to see in an association meeting is that they're going to be looking for three major pieces, if you will: general session, breakout or workshop rooms, and then usually food functions. And those are the kind of the breakdown of those meetings. Now, a general session for an association can be quite large. You're talking as many as 3, 4, 5, 6,000. You also could have them as small as a couple hundred. When they break out, they could break out into multiple tracks. Could be 20 or 30 breakout rooms. Could be 4 or 5 large breakout rooms. So the association market is, again, most actually like all these markets, they are very, very diverse, and it's going to depend upon the specific association as far as how complicated they're going to be. Um, so again, when they look at venues, a lot of times the criteria they're going to have is, number one, can we be self-contained? Can we have everything under one roof? Overnight rooms, meeting space, food functions. We make it easy on our attendees. It's a kind of a one-stop shop, if you will. Usually they can keep their prices lower when they do it that way, and it's obviously less stress for the attendee. If that can't happen, then what you're usually looking at is a convention style or convention center with attached hotels to it. And again, as you guys know, Indianapolis is laid out perfectly for this because you have the JW, the Marriott, the Westin, the Hyatt, the Crown Plaza, all directly attached to the convention center. So it allows us to offer a headquarter type hotel as well as a variation in pricing for high quality hotels that still will be able to hopefully help hit budgets if that has to come into play. So when we look at different associations in the meetings they have, you're going to have a variety of types of meetings. And your book goes into great detail. I'm just going to hit on them real quick. What you're going to see generally from associations: annual conventions, state and regionals, conferences, seminars, workshops, board meetings. Each one of these will have their own elements. And one of the things we're going to talk about with all three of our markets that we're going to hit on tonight is that one meeting can lead you to the next. There have been many times in my hotel, and I think I've thrown out Patty Overton's name before. She handles our association market. She will get the board meeting for an association. That will lead us into becoming a possible site for a regional, for a conference. If the association is within our realm of size-wise, it could be a national. So again, all of these meetings can lead you to getting multiple pieces of business. Associations are a very, very unique animal. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't envy what Patty has to do. There are a lot of moving pieces to an association. So, some characteristics that you're going to see in the association meetings. Number one, they're going to be in a cycle. It could be once every year, it could be once every 2 years. And typically, I shouldn't say typically, a lot of times, whatever that cycle is, those meetings move. More so for your larger associations, which maybe have membership across the United States. They're trying to make sure that they do a good job, I guess, of putting the meeting where representation can be had. So we don't always want it on the West Coast because then everybody on the East Coast has to always travel. We don't always want it down south because everybody from the north has to come down. So we move it. So in 2015, it's going to be in the West. 2016, the East Coast gets it. 2017, it's in the Midwest. 2018, it goes to the South, and then it might start cycling all over again. So keep that in mind. These meetings do tend to rotate, and they are on a cycle, usually anywhere between a year and 3 years, depending on what the needs are of the association to meet. Again, we talked about it could be limited geography as well. The example I just gave you is unlimited. They've got membership all over the place. We could have an Indiana association that says, you know what, we're not meeting outside of our borders because we want to keep the money that we spend inside the state. We're an association for this state. Let's give back to the state. And so therefore, they can only meet in the state of Indiana. So they're meeting in Illinois, Evansville, Fort Wayne, Gary, what have you. So it could be the Midwest. We could say, okay, we're a tri-state association that includes Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. We have to meet in one of those 3 states. Lead time on these meetings, the association market is unbelievable. It could be as soon as 2 years. They can put out bids for 2025 and beyond right now. So because they're planning out so far in advance, because some of these association meetings take on a large budget requirement, they want to know in advance where they're going. And it also allows them, obviously, to promote to their constituents where they're going to be at in the future. Now, that's one of the unique things about an association is those members of the association do not have to attend. If you're a member of an association, it's kind of you pay your dues, and the idea is then to get something back from the association, whether it's best practices, whether it's contacts within the industry, what have you. So there's no mandatory, I have to attend the convention. So with an association meeting, a lot goes into it to make it attractive to the potential attendees. And so that could be anything from being financially feasible, being in an exotic location, or being in a unique property or city, being at those places at times of celebration. Again, you're going to do something around Christmas time. Do you want it to be, around skiing? Do you want to celebrate a certain holiday in a certain area? So again, those things all come into play when it comes to, how they're going to pick out their venues. But like I said, they will book 10, 15 years out their different meetings. So again, very, 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 very different. The sites that you'll do for these associations also will vary. And again, it can be a one-person site, and we're going to go into this on who decides. It could be a group of people. And again, some of the people who might be on this initial site may not be on that board if that's what they choose to do once the original decision is, or once the final decision is made. So again, they are a complex animal for sure. Most of these association meetings will last between 2 to 5 days. Again, depends upon the size, what they're wanting to discuss, if there's anything special about this particular year's meeting. And the price will vary on the association. Obviously a medical association probably has members who make a little more money. You might look down more at a blue collar type association that maybe works with manufacturing and those kind of things, and money is maybe a little bit tighter. So it will vary upon the different industries that the association is tied to. So who decides? Who are our decision makers when it comes to the association market? Well, that is diverse. It can be everything from an association director to president and officers. It could be a committee. God help you if that's the case, because now you're talking between 5 and 15 or 20. You're trying to figure out what is important in each one of them. Those site tours are an absolute headache in the sense that you are selling not to one decision maker, but the potential of 15. And trust me when I say that, that is not easy. You could have a board. Again, it could be 6 to 8 people. But here's the thing. The board could do the initial site tour. But when they finally get ready to make decisions, that board could be gone. And now you're talking to a whole different board with a whole different mindset. So Again, complex animal. I don't envy Patty in our office for she has to deal with this. Uh, Lastly, what you could see also as far as who decides who could be an influencer could be a local chapter. A lot of times when these associations decide to go to different cities, they have to have local representation, and those guys are going to help them from kind of all the ancillary things that are going to go on, helping them with travel, helping them with dine-arounds. What are the different venues they can go to? What kind of entertainment do we have in town? So they may have a little bit of an input on this as well. And obviously, they're going to know their local area better than somebody who's just come in and has not had any experience with that particular city. So the last thing the chapter talks about is where do you find this information, okay? And it's going to talk about a lot of periodicals. In that regard, our book, I think, is a little bit outdated. You can find stuff there. Anymore, Google obviously is going to be your best friend. Go to a company's website. Most of them list the associations they're with. That obviously is usually a way for them to show status in their particular industry. You're also going to be able to go to different websites. Again, if you type in association of, you'll be amazed on what will come up on a Google search. So again, take a good hard look at this market. I think it's one of the more challenging ones out there because of the decision making being something that can change, and because the timeline is so long when you can start the RFP process and when an actual decision can be made. So, real quick drink here. Excuse me, guys. All right, going to chapter 5, the corporate market, my world. Okay, much like associations, you're going to see a variance amongst the meeting types and how we go about meetings with as many companies as there are. Every company is going to do it a little bit different. There are some characteristics that will go across the board, but for the most part, every company has certain things that are important to it, or things that they have come across that are red flags to them, or things they want to highlight. So again, when we look at some of the key elements from what the book gives you, and I would agree with all of these, food quality always seems to come up when it comes to corporations. They want to be fed well, make sure there's coffee, keep them awake, keep them alert. The space requirements. In a lot of the corporate type meetings, you're going to have different agendas, if you will, on what that meeting has to get done. If it's training, when we talk about space, that's key. They have to be comfortable. It has to be an environment that's conducive to learning. Do we need natural light? Do we want to make sure that there are no groups around them that are causing sound concerns? So the space becomes very, very important. Service is listed in the book, but I think anybody having a meeting is concerned with service. So again, I wouldn't just put that just in the corporate market. They talk about having enough rooms. Absolutely. Most times corporations want to keep all of their meetings under one roof. There are instances where they're just so large, it has to be multiple hotels. We're privileged this year to have Angie's Listed House. That's going to have a few different elements to it, and a little bit of an overflow at one of our nearby properties, the Omni. We have the same thing with a group called Discount Tire. So again, in the most part, they want to have enough rooms all under one roof so everyone's treated equally, but they also know sometimes you outgrow space. You can outgrow a hotel's room allotment and still stay within their space. And if the space is that attractive, they'll be willing to bring on a secondary partner like that. Lastly, location. And I would have to agree with the book. Location is key, but I think it has to deal with the purpose too, what you're trying to do. If it's a meeting where they are trying to also offer some free time in an inviting city, something that's exciting, then they're going to want to be near, downtown or near the elements of that city that are most attractive. If it is a fly in, fly out type of quick meeting, they're going to want an airport property. If it is, they're trying to get away from the distractions of downtown, they don't want people out bar hopping and entertaining themselves and shopping and this and that, maybe they go to the suburbs. They know they have less of those distractions, and when they get to those properties, they're all inclusive and they're all right there. That will vary upon the different corporations and what they're trying to accomplish. So when we talk about what kind of meetings we could have within the corporate market, these are just a few. And again, they will change and vary. A lot of times you'll hear different names or different reasons for companies to meet. But just a few that the book mentioned, and I would agree with all these. You want to know these. You want to know what makes them different, what makes them particular to the corporate market. But you have sales meetings, very obviously clear. Sales staffs getting together, getting their marching orders, going over best practices, reviewing what our goals are for the year. Product launches, chance for a company to show off, the new iPhone 8 or 7 or whatever number we're on right now. I just got the 6. so I'm always behind one or two. I believe it's 7 that's coming out. So training sessions. We've got new government regulations have come down. Our county department has to get up to specs. We're taking all 40 of them to said hotel. We're going to train them for 3 days. A stockholder meeting. We're going to give kind of a state of the company address. All these people have invested in us. We're going to let them know what's going on. And incentive meetings. Those are probably the most fun. Obviously, we're going there to thank somebody, whether it's our sales team, whether it's our executive leadership committee. It could be our administrative staff for a job they've done that's well done. But incentives are fun trips. They're looking to obviously highlight successes throughout the year, make sure these people are treated and felt rewarded, if you will. So what kind of characteristics do we see in a corporate meeting? 50% of these meetings are typically under 100 people. Not to say that you won't have ones that are over, but a majority of them do stay under that 100 range. Third-party or online RFPs are becoming kind of the norm for a lot of third parties. I'm sorry, for a lot of corporate meetings. When the economy struggled about 3 or 4 years ago, what you saw was a lot of corporate meeting planners, a lot of long-time corporate meeting planners being cut loose. There was little ROI to be seen from these particular positions, and so they were some of the first to be let go. As the economy has gotten better, they've not always been hired back on. You can go to a third party, and we talked a little bit about the Helms Briscoe and the Conference Directs of the world, and how we as a corporation don't pay them anything. You come in, we're going to use your expertise, you're going to do all the legwork, we'll make the final decision, and the hotel is actually the one that's going to pay the third party the commission. So it's a great way for companies to get the expertise of a good planner and not have to pay anything additional for it. So a lot of company meetings, a lot of corporate meetings do happen midweek or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Rarely do you see corporate meetings falling in over the weekend. Occasionally you'll have some Sunday arrivals meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday maybe, but it's typically unheard of for corporate meetings to go in through Friday and Saturday, if you will. And again, the turnaround time. This is fun. Unlike associations, which typically are going to give you a year to 2 years out, corporate meetings are quick in some regards. I've had meetings who have called me up on a Monday and wanted to meet the following Monday. They turn around that fast. I have other ones who will, call a year out. And then it's anywhere in between. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending upon what it is, how often they've had it, how quickly they can turn around, or how important the meeting is. If it's a training session, they have to be up to specs by a certain amount of time, then hey, we need this now. And so it's a fun, fast-moving segment of the market that we get to deal with, and it's probably one of the ones I enjoy the most. So we kind of touched on this already. These can be held at any type of hotel. Like I said, it's going to depend upon what the company finds vital in for that particular meeting, I should say. Again, if they want to be sequestered and secluded, you might see them at a suburban property. If they're going to want them to be able to socialize after the meeting's over, whether they have clients at this meeting as well as maybe their own sales staff, or again, maybe it's just sales staff trying to become closer, work on camaraderie, teamwork, and they want them to have those social outlets afterwards. It's just going to depend. Some additional characteristics for a corporate meeting: they usually know the attendance of their meetings, unlike an association meeting where they can come or they don't have to come. Most corporate meetings, they are being told they have to attend these meetings. It's not so much of a you can come or you can't come. Now, the only time that changes is if a corporation is doing something that involves clientele. Obviously, they can't make their clients attend. They'll incentivize it as best they can, but they can't make them attend. Training sessions, best practices, those kind of things. Usually, who's going to be coming. They're going to last, like I said, 2 to 5 days. And again, rarely do they go into the weekends. These meetings have a great chance for repeat. Training goes on a regular basis. There are always new things that staff has to learn, whether it's regulations, whether it's changing in operation procedures, what have you. So by getting one meeting, a lot of times, and you do it well, then you can bank on or hopefully develop that relationship into something that they just come to you on a regular basis. Now, it could start as a training meeting. It could pop into a social function. It could then be a state of the company address. It could be their fundraiser or a gala they want to have. It could be a client event where now they're entertaining their clients. So what's great about the corporate meetings, if you get one meeting, there's always a chance for more. So again, another reason why I enjoy this market so much is that even though I might have 4 or 5 contacts at a meeting, there are still 4 or 5 more people I need to meet. And that keeps it obviously lively and exciting all the time. Who plans these meetings? We kind of touched on this a little bit. The full-time planner still exist, but they're becoming more and more of a rarity. Again, with those cuts 4 or 5 years ago, we haven't seen a great uptick in more full-time planners coming back. What you are seeing more of is administrative staff. So a lot of times we become resources and teachers, if you will, to those people who become the planners. Because for a lot of these administrative staff members, this is not their regular job. This has been thrust upon them. It's the one meeting they plan every year. So you have to explain attrition. You have to explain cancellation fees. They don't know what classroom style is. They don't know what 2 per 6 is. So you do have to sometimes lay down, lay down the details of what go into a meeting. And this is a great chance for you to build up a strong relationship of trust. And again, be that resource for them. Be the guide, if you will, because they're not going to know there are certain things. Hey, you don't have to buy, or you don't have to rent the AV package that includes the projector, which is $400 more. We have a bring your own projector package. I just saved you $400. Now that trust begins. Now they realize that you have their best interest at heart, and that's what we want. That's how we sell to these people. The other things you're going to see, you will see managers and directors take on the responsibilities of meetings. That's not unheard of. Again, much more so if we're going to have a higher level of attendee from, say, an executive level and up. And then obviously the third parties, your Helms Briscoe, your conference directs, those guys are greatly embedded in the corporate market, and we see them on a regular basis. So the nice thing about that is you are working with a professional. They know the ins and outs. We're all speaking the same language, and it makes it much, much easier in a lot of cases to, especially for those quicker meetings, to really get through and get them done. So how do we find corporate business? Well, obviously the easiest way is to open the Yellow Pages up and look for a corporation. They're everywhere. Again, you can drive by certain places. You can look them up online. There are periodicals out there as well. There are third-party lead sources that actually will provide you with companies that are having meetings in certain areas. One of those is called Nolan. They provide leads to different hotels. But again, a lot of times just walking around your own city, driving around your own neighborhood and seeing what's there, and then doing the research and trying to find a contact. So the corporate market is one that I think is very, very easy to penetrate, as far as knowing who the players are from a company standpoint. But then to dig deeper and find who those planners are, that's where your challenge is going to be at. So another quick drink here, guys. Bear with me. Oh, here we go. All right, last chapter, chapter 6, other markets. This I love the acronym we give this. We call this SMURF, and we actually in the book you're also going to see 2 or 3 other markets. Non-for-profit, definitely take a look at that. The government agencies, I definitely want you to take a look at that. It actually falls into this. Sometimes we'll do a split here, and I'll share that here in just a minute. But the SMURF market is one that is kind of a catch-all, kind of a hodgepodge, if you will. For those of you who don't know, SMURF stands for Social/Sports, Military, Education, Religious, Fraternal. Each one of these is as different to the other one as night and day. And if you are fortunate to have the SMURF market as your market to sell, the one thing I always found when I sold SMURF is that you were never ever bored, because there are such variety, not only amongst the 5 different divisions of SMURF, but even within them. You talk about social, well, that goes all over the place. Sports, it could be everything from a sports team to a conference meeting to the Final Four. So again, it's gonna vary up. Military, obviously you have all the branches of the military, but then you have training sessions, you have galas and balls, so again, each one of these brings with it a variety of opportunities. Now, typically some of the things that we see with the SMURF market, number one, they're price conscious. Again, you're talking about military, educators, religious, fraternal. These are not people or not entities that typically have lots of disposable revenue. So they are very price conscious. They also, over time, have figured out that they can be very date flexible, because in our world, in the hotel world, there are what we call dead dates. There are hot dates and then there are cold dates, if you will. They've figured out that, if we can help a hotel out by coming in, say Indianapolis in January when it's cold, they know we'll give them a very, very discounted rate because it's a hard sell for us. And so it's a win-win. They have provided a reasonable experience from a price standpoint for their membership. We filled a need date, so we're ecstatic, and everybody kind of comes out ahead and wins. So you'll see that. The planner type, man, again, just a variety. From the social aspects where it could be a volunteer, from the military where it could be, they could have a professional planner, but more likely it's an officer who's taking on this responsibility. It may not even be an officer; it could be an enlisted man who is in charge of said training. It could be an administrative personnel that works, with a base or with a unit. So that varies. Education, all across the board. Again, if you're working with a college, it could be an administrative assistant who's going to call in and help. It could be the dean of that department. It could be the educator themselves who's putting on some sort of speaking engagement and wants to, open it up to certain people. It could be a training session, and now we're dealing with, different departments of ed, whether it's at a local level, a regional level, state level, or national level. So religious, obviously, that can go all across the board. That could be, from a church congregation where it is the pastor who is kind of helping arrange it. It could be a nationwide or national convention where we're talking about bringing in 10, 20, 30,000 people from a certain denomination in how they're coming in. And it could be that that's all going through a housing department, and so it's a little bit easier. Or each church and each congregation is on their own to make reservations. So now we're dealing again with volunteers, people who do not do this for a living, and everything really has to be explained out. So and again, fraternal is very much the same way. This could be social functions. It could be the Fraternal Order of Eagles, where now again we're talking about, are there training sessions going on? Are we trying to do something within that fraternity structure, if you will? So it's variety. Variety is definitely the spice of life when it comes to the Smurf market. So, and again, the importance of these meetings vary. For military, it could be some very serious training to get officers prepared for their next step. Social, it could just be, your typical gala Christmas party. It's the office Christmas party, if you will. So again, you're going to see everything, and they're all going to have different things that are important to them. We look at government, we look at military, they're most likely going to have to be at government rate. So we know rate is important. We also know that both those entities aren't usually allowed to have that many bells and whistles. Really, no frills. They don't want to see things. They don't want the appearance of money being spent frivolously. So again, you do a lot of bottom line. I don't want to say dirt cheap, but you're doing the very, very basics, because again, the appearance for them is very important, as most of us are concerned how the government is spending our money. The same thing, when we talk about religion, we talk about education, there can be certain aspects of those meetings that have to be adhered to, whether that is having a quiet area for services, whether it is on education. Sometimes we have to lock down rooms because they're actually doing test prep for standardized testing. So once they've decided on questions and this and that, everything that wasn't used has to be shredded and taken away by a private shredding company to make sure that none of that is accessible to anybody. God forbid they steal answers, they get a head start on the test. So it's interesting how each one of these have their own nuances. I kind of skipped over sports. Sports can be the funniest one of all of them because, again, you're going to be most likely dealing with some form of egos, especially if you're dealing with collegiate up to the professional level. So, do coaches have to have their own suites? Do they have to be comped? Do we have to have gifts in those rooms? Do they want secure floors? When we talk about NFL and NBA teams, security becomes a major, major issue. So, again, all of these guys bring a different look, if you will, to their meeting and to their stage with the hotel. One other one that they touched on in the book that I want to hit on real quick, incentive meetings. And these are fun ones. And if you guys have the luxury of getting to work at hotels that are what I'll call a specialty hotel. It's an exotic location, you're on a beach, you're an all-inclusive, it's a ski resort, it's tied to a theme park like you get in your Disney Worlds or Disneylands, those kind of things. The incentive packages are an absolute blast because obviously these people are coming in typically with money to spend. They're there to have a good time. They want to see all the high-end things because, again, they're trying to show their appreciation to the staff that they're bringing in. And it's absolutely a lot of fun. And again, you can see these incentive meetings in Indianapolis. A lot of times we get a number of them around the 500, around the Brickyard, around Final Four weekends. So again, where companies are thanking their clients by taking to these major sporting events. So again, doesn't have to be an exotic location. It could just be that you're hosting that event. Again, enjoy those. They're fun. They're festive. A little more carefree, but at the same time, but these are very, very important people in most cases to their company. So the planner will probably be on edge a little bit because they're trying to make sure these people understand that, you know, they're appreciated, they're loved, and again, the company is very, very happy with the results they have brought to them. So, all right, so that wraps up chapter 6. Again, guys, we've got a test coming up this week. I'll have it ready. I'll have it on there, ready to rock and roll for you guys. If you have any questions, again, continue to keep emailing me, call me, what have you. So far, like I said, the things I've seen from you guys, I'm very impressed with. I think it looks like you guys are getting it. If you do have those questions, like I said, keep rolling them in. So best of luck this week, and enjoy the short week. Take care.